Hey friend, welcome to the Self Care Isn't Selfish podcast. I'm your host, Emily Nichols. As a Whole30 certified coach, wife, busy working boy mom, and your self-care guru, I'm here to help you start putting yourself first without the guilt. Each week you'll hear motivating and practical tips on how you can create a habit of self-care through interviews with my amazing guests or quick solo episodes with me. After each episode, you'll walk away with an action plan and feel empowered to implement what you have learned into your life. So, grab a cup of coffee, glass of wine, or your favorite sparkling water, and let's do this. Hey gang, welcome to episode 10 of the Self Care Isn't Selfish podcast. This is a bonus episode. Yes, I'm dropping an extra self-care quickie for you this week. So this was kind of brought on from my conversation with Ashley Hummel. If you haven't listened, go back to episode 9 and listen to that. We're talking about being strong from the inside out. But we kind of had a sidebar conversation about saying no and how powerful that can be. And I wanted to expand on that a little bit because I think saying no is a form of self-care. And I think a lot of times as women, we are so quick to say yes. And in many circumstances, that doesn't serve you to say yes. Sometimes it may stress you out more than anything. So I'm going to give you a few tips, real short episode today, about ways you can say no without the guilt. So let's dig in. So if you're anything like me, there has been times in my life where I am overscheduled and overstressed. And I think that comes from my tendency to be a people pleaser. I'm a number 3 on the Enneagram, which means I'm an achiever. I think I need to say yes to everything and do all the things in order to achieve my goals. But over time, the stress of saying yes can really take a toll on you. So I'm going to give you a few ways that you can say no. And just like with anything, like when you're starting a new healthy lifestyle, it takes time and it has to become a habit. And, over time, you'll build more confidence. You'll have more energy to focus on the things that really matter. And, you'll gain more respect from people by saying no and doing things halfway versus committing 100%. So let's talk about a few different ways that you can say no. Before I share a few ways that I say no with confidence, let's talk about the way in which you say no, your tone. A big way that we communicate nowadays is over text message. And if someone was to text you and ask you to come do something and you just texted back, no, that's not going to come across very friendly or very nice. And your friend's going to be like, man, what's wrong with them? Are they mad at me? What's going on? And you really need to think about the way you come across via text message. It's just the way reality is now and how we communicate. So here's a great example. Say it's Friday afternoon and a friend texts you and says, hey, we're getting together for dinner and drinks tonight at 7. Can you come? And in the back of your mind, you're like, it's been a really long week at work. I was planning on just, cuddling up on the couch, watching a movie with my family in my yoga pants and a glass of wine and going to bed early. Maybe you have a lot of commitments on Saturday morning, like kids' sporting events, or you're hitting up an Orange Theory class, like what I'm planning on doing this Saturday morning. And you really just wanted to relax tonight. Instead of just texting back, no. Instead of texting back, oh, I'm so sorry, no, and giving them a long essay drawn out about why you can't go out tonight, try this on instead. You could text back and be like, hey, no, I can't do that tonight, but thank you so much for asking. Hope to catch you next time. And maybe do an exclamation mark, maybe a little smiley emoji. Your friend is going to understand and nothing catastrophic is going to happen. And you're not going to have serious FOMO because you had these plans and it's going to serve you better and part of your self-care to stay in tonight. So don't feel guilty about that, but really think about your tone moving forward, especially communicating via text. So let's share a few examples of how you can say no, especially if you're face to face with somebody. I think there's a lot of pressure to say yes because you're like, oh, they're right there and I don't want to disappoint them. But here's a few examples of how you could say no. Hey gang, jumping in real quick to remind you that all of my self-care quickie tip episodes are brought to you by my online Whole30 courses. As I've mentioned numerous times, Whole30 helped change me from the inside out, and I now help my clients eat, move, and love themselves to help them find their own version of self-care, food freedom, and to put themselves first without feeling the guilt. So head on over to my website. It's just emily-nichols.com and check out all of my Whole30 courses. If you weren't able to get into one of my most recent Whole30 groups, if the deadline has already passed, no worries. I am always taking on Whole30 private clients if you'd like to get coached one-on-one, or also if you're just looking for a little bit of virtual accountability, some little tough love and cheerleading from me, then sign up for my Whole30 Anytime course. These are courses you can do anytime throughout the year when you're ready to give Whole30 a try. Just a reminder, it's emily-nichols.com, or follow along on Instagram at emilynichols22 so you can get all the updates on what's happening with my Whole30 courses. And just because I love my podcast listeners, once you head to the site and purchase your course, I have a special discount code for you. Just enter at checkout SELFLOVE. That's just self-love, SELFLOVE, all one word, all capitals, to receive a discount. So can't wait to see you inside the course and help you change from the inside out through Whole30. So let's say your PTO president is asking you to steer the fundraising committee for the school PTO fundraiser. And you're just like, oh my gosh, they're going over all the commitments with you, the time and brain space this is going to take up, and you're just in the back of your mind like, there's no way. I don't have time to do this. It's stressing me out even just talking to this person about it. So here's one example of what you could say. Oh, I can't do that right now due to my schedule and commitments already on my calendar during that time, but please consider asking me at another time. I think that's great. You don't want to miss out on being asked for future opportunities for things, but if right now that's not going to serve you in your life right now, feel empowered to say no and let them know that you wouldn't mind being asked in the future for other commitments. Another example is, I can't do that right now and commit, but I can ... So for example, for being on a fundraising committee, you could say, oh, I can't commit to that right now, but I could, share what you're doing on social media, tag certain people in posts, and just spread the word with what you're doing with your fundraiser. That's really great. And you're giving them another option where you're still helping, you're still being involved, but it's not as much of a big a commitment that you cannot take on right now. Another example is, I'm sorry, I can't commit and give 100% this time, and I'd really want to be able to do that, so thank you for asking. But at this time, I can't commit 100%. That's great. They're not going to want you to come on and do a lousy job in this position. So letting them know you just can't commit 100% this time, they're going to be glad you did instead of you taking it on and doing a bad job. And lastly, you can just say, oh, no, thank you, but thanks for asking, and smile. I think there's a smile can go a long way. And, don't feel like you have to go into this long explanation like I already mentioned. You can simply just say, no, thank you, and smile depending on the situation and what their ask is of you. There are so many different seasons of life where you are able to say yes to things. But there's many times during different seasons of your life where you need to say no. We need to stop being overscheduled and overstressed. It is not healthy for us, our families, anybody. So I hope you found these tips helpful. Remember to give me a follow over at Emily Nichols 22 or at Self Care Isn't Selfish Podcast on Instagram. And I'd love it if you'd leave a rating and review on iTunes. And don't forget to subscribe so you get the latest download every week of the Self Care Isn't Selfish podcast. So thanks again for listening, gang, and I'll catch you next week.